Hello and welcome to the Saturated Industry Podcast.
I'm Steve.
I'm Danny, and I don't know why I keep trying to think of what number episode this is because I stopped counting a long time ago. We're talking about the Winter Soldier.
Yep, it's the Winter Soldier episode.
Yeah, this should be a good day because oh my god, this movie is so. This is one of those movies where we talked a lot in the first phase about all the movies being better than we remembered.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that I remembered being unbelievably good. And I saw it again today, and oh my god, it's unbelievably good.
I was going to make the exact same point. All the other films, I was like, I remembered them, but they dulled.
Yeah.
This movie, I remembered coming out of this movie being like, this was the greatest Marvel film ever.
Yeah.
And still right now, I'm like, this is still probably the best Marvel film.
And it's also, I don't know, it's weird because in the second phase, if only Thor had been good. If Thor had been good, the second Marvel phase would have been perfect. Like not Ultron, but like all of the individual movies would have been perfect because Iron Man finally dealing with like Tony's psychology and you know what it would take to actually be in Iron Man. It was such an interesting movie. In this movie, dealing with being out of time, like being just transplanted.
Out of time.
Yeah, just being transplanted from 1940s optimism to 21st century pure cynicism, and like how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And then like Guardians of the Galaxy obviously was just a great story about family, and then
And a phenomenal, like such a change in pace and tone and everything, but it still fits.
yeah, it's like the universe, the Marvel universe by that point, like we're gonna get to it next week or tomorrow actually, but the Marvel universe by that point had become so complex and layered and dense that it actually they could go that far. They could they could reach that high. Not in Thor. Apparently Thor didn't work. And I mean, if you're listening to this episode, I assume you've gotten this far and therefore had to endure our Thor episode, which may have actually been worse than the movie because I was on such a I was so low after seeing it. You know, like every other movie, I've been on a bit of a buzz, and this movie especially, I'm so excited because
it's a good movie.
I don't like you. We don't have a visual aid for this, but every time we watch a movie, we fill a whiteboard that I have here with all of our thoughts, and I could barely fit all of my thoughts about this movie on this whiteboard. And something I noticed, like something just from my own recollection, in every other movie, when it gets to the last act, I would almost stop taking notes altogether. Like in all of the previous movies,
it gets to like an action, like the end of the movie action scene. You're like, okay, I don't need to take notes here.
Yeah,
because it's just the action, nothing important is happening.
Yeah, and the end. Yeah, exactly. Like nothing. Sort of the end of the movie. One important thing happens, which is that the hero wins, and there's almost nothing else. Whereas in this movie, so much happens. Like I'm not going to skip to the end, but so much happens in the last act of this movie that is just as relevant as every other part of every other act. You know?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, it's just a great movie.
It's
like
so
my
good.
god, it's so much better than every other Marvel movie up to now.
I'm glad the Russo brothers are doing Infinity War.
Oh Jesus, such a good choice. So, okay, where do we start? He exercises at Lake Forest Gump.
Yeah, it has some witty banter with
Falcon.
Falcon.
Sam Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like this. It was great kind of... First of all, that they came up... Like, the Russo brothers needed to introduce him to Sam somehow.
Yeah.
And that they came up with the fact that Sam would also be a vet. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I haven't read the comics. Maybe he's also a vet there or whatever.
Yeah.
But that they both are dealing with the same stuff in the same way. So they're both soldiers. They both love America. So
they're done with their wars.
Yeah, they're done with their wars, and they're out exercising at this place that they fought for.
Yeah.
Like literally the Washington Monument.
Stupid o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And like Sam is sort of, sort of pleasantly annoyed by Steve.
As you can only be when it's Captain America, because he's just so damn
too
charming.
Fucking charming. Like you can't help but be enamored by him, and his like.
He's just a specimen.
Oh yeah, he's another example of like unbelievable extras that they sometimes get, like just these one-off moments. The Apple Store guy, oh, that was so good. But yeah, this is sort of where they first start to deal with. So like Captain America was in the Avengers all throughout, and it was actually kind of his story because it was about his ascension to the leadership role of the Avengers. But it never really dealt with his place in the world, like
what he does with himself besides go to a boxing club and box
his stress out. Yeah, like he was like Fury shows up at the start of that movie and says, "I have a mission for you," and that's exactly what Cap needs, and that's sort of something that becomes clear in this movie. When Cap's not on mission, he has no idea what to do with himself.
He's lost.
Yeah,
literally,
and he's got like. He's so goal oriented that he has a little notebook full of things that people have told him, and literally whenever anybody tells him something that he should have like he missed and that he should help him to catch up on how to understand pop culture. He takes a note of it.
Yeah,
like
and
he's that guy.
Crosses out when it's done.
Who would like no sarcasm, no like he just straight away goes, okay, fair enough. Like he takes everybody at face value, which it's another great thing about Cap.
Yeah, and it's pretty consistent with like his character from Captain America.
Yeah,
because all he wanted to do was go to war, and now that's over. So what's left for the soldier who has no war to fight?
That's something I wondered in this movie as well. Like he says, somebody says to him about being happy. I can't remember the exact line, but he says, like, do what makes you happy, or
yeah.
And he's like, well, that's just, I don't know what makes me happy. Like I don't know what to do. And it made me wonder, like, what if there hadn't been a World War II? Like, what if Steve Rogers had grown up in the same America, still getting bullied and picked on, still having that optimism and that drive, but he had nowhere to apply it. Like, he couldn't apply it to anything. I just wonder what makes the man. And this movie sort of, it toys with it. Like, it kind of, it dances around that idea, but ultimately he gets a new mission.
Yeah.
So it's the movie's thesis sort of comes to the conclusion that what Captain America needs is to be Captain America. He's just got
to have a cause to fight for.
And the reason he feels out of place is because the America he fought for is gone. It's been sort of transmuted into this cynical, despotic.
It's the modern times where things aren't as black and white as Cap always sees them, or can always seem to see them.
Through. Yeah, and he's.
Or at least that's what everyone else says to him. But obviously it's Cap, so he doesn't believe it.
Yeah, he's and he doesn't know how to apply his can-do attitude in a world that has no place for it.
A world of greys.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear it anymore. Like, it's, what does he say? Nick Fury says to him, S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be. And Cap comes from an era where all anybody thought about was the way we would like the world to be, and what we can do to get to there.
Yeah.
And somehow we've lost that, and more like we as the world have lost that. But I guess it's a more quintessentially American problem than it is for anybody else in the world, because in America, it being such a young country, a lot of its identity up until the 1940s or 50s, and basically up until Cap's era, was about what can we do to improve so that it's a better world for our kids. And somehow we've gotten to an America where we need to arm our kids so they can defend themselves from the other kids who bring rifles into school. Like, that's the world that Cap is butting heads with. And you can totally understand, like, where he's coming from when he has disagreements with essentially everybody he works with.
Yeah. He says in the movie he doesn't like being Fury's janitor, cleaning up Fury's messes, because he is at odds with. He wants to help. He wants to do something.
Yeah.
So he's trying to continue on with S.H.I.E.L.D., but he doesn't really believe in it because he sees it as not what he fought for when he was back in the 40s.
Yeah, the ideology of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like compromised, to say the least.
Yeah.
And Cap, it kind of feels like in this movie Cap is with S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. are the people who took him in, S.H.I.E.L.D. are the people who woke him up, and S.H.I.E.L.D. are the people who gave him something to do. Like, basically said, we have a mission for you, save the world.
Yeah.
And now the world is saved from the Chitauri, but like Cap is still sort of working here. I mean, getting a salary or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the more missions he goes on, the more he realizes that S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't, this sort of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't the U.S. Army that he joined in the 40s. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the CIA. It's a more clandestine organization with looser morals.
Yeah, the world's CIA basically.
Yeah. And Cap's not, well, CIA is the world's CIA. But Cap is not comfortable with that, and that's something that Nick Fury knows. Nick Fury says it to Cap, like, I sent her to do the things that you wouldn't be comfortable with because I don't want to make you uncomfortable. It's like, well...
and he did that because he thought S.H.I.E.L.D. was compromised, or he had suspicions at least.
Yeah, so explain the Lumerian start to me. So at the start of the movie, there's this awesome action scene where Cap...
A very physical action
my god,
scene.
Like just breaking people's spines.
Every fight scene in this movie is so visceral.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first things that like happens in the movie, that fight scene. And as soon as Cap kicked that guy off the boat, I was just like, what? It like shocked me the first time just because of how visceral it was.
And more than that, like how Cap's power just keeps amplifying. Like in Avengers he was pretty strong, but like human, you know, like he takes that grenade from the Chitauri and gets knocked outside the building, and it takes him a second to shake that off. In this movie, he jumps out of a plane, he skydives without a parachute, just lands in the water, feet first in the water, and then climbs up an anchor rope, climbs up an anchor chain onto the ship, and just starts kicking people to death, and running so fast that between one section of the fuselage and another, he appears to teleport down the ship. And no, but seriously, he moves so quickly that he has these fights where the other people don't even have a chance to respond. He hits them so hard they just crumple into a heap, or slam against a wall, or just their bodies break in half. It's ridiculous, and that's not how he fought the Chitauri. That's not how he fought anybody that we've seen so far. That's not how he fought the Nazis. It appears he's getting stronger. Yeah, and there's a few different feats in this movie that he, pulls off. It's mind-boggling. The elevator scene where, first of all, he's in a crowded elevator. There's 15, 20 of those guys in there. It's a very and he somehow manages to take them all out. Fine, I'll buy that. Then he gets trapped in that elevator and he has to jump out of a skyscraper. Yep. And this time he doesn't go feet first. Nope. He goes arm first.
Onto the shield.
Points the shield at the ground, lands on it, kind of goes, oh, my arm, then gets up and runs to get his bike. Yep. That's as much as it hurts. And then there's another scene where the Winter Soldier shoots Fury through the wall of his apartment. He identifies where the Winter Soldier is, leaps out his own window, across the street, and into the window of the building opposite, and just starts pelting after that guy.
That at least has some tie back into the first movie where he makes that long jump after Bucky.
Okay, but it's...
And now that I think of it, it's sort of like a mirror almost, where Bucky's on one side, he's on the other, and he's jumping after him.
That's a really good point. But no, because he jumps through a window and then goes through another window, which is a whole other extra bit of force.
Yeah, and then just continues to run through doors. Yeah. And crashes into a wall.
It's the pace of this movie is frenetic, and it's a pretty long movie. Yeah. But it never seems to slow down, and especially in the action scenes. The action scenes are just pure pressure. It's just pressure. There's that one at the start. That one, everything seems kind of under control.
It's S.H.I.E.L.D. going in, doing their job, and they're completely in control of the situation.
So let's rewind before we start talking about the action scenes, because that's going to be a whole half hour by itself. The Lemurian Star. So Cap is there to take out the terrorists, right?
Yeah, to rescue the hostages.
But Black Widow is there to retrieve to retrieve the files on the USB drive.
To pull information off the ship.
Right, because information that had been taken from...
Well, it's a Hydra ship.
Right.
And so Fury thinks something's on there that'll confirm his
suspicion.
Fury
doesn't know that Hydra still exists.
He thinks something's going... He thinks S.H.I.E.L.D. is compromised.
Right.
And he thinks there's something on the Lemurian Star that'll prove that. But he couldn't go and order people to get it. And the only people he trusts are pretty much three people. Yeah. Cap, Hill, and Widow. And so he organizes the pirates to take over the ship so that he could send in Cap and Widow. Cap to stop the pirates and Widow to get the information.
Oh. And that's... So, Sitwell, who we know now was the traitor, was transporting Zola's algorithm on this freighter?
I guess so, yeah. Or I guess his algorithm was on the freighter. Maybe among other things, other Hydra secrets and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I didn't understand. Because then, when he gets it back, he can't access it, even though he's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so I imagine Pierce has spoofed his credentials or whatever and locked it out from him, so he can't access it. While anyone else trying to access it would just be oh, Fury's locked it down. But because Fury tries to access it, he's wait a minute. I didn't lock this down.
Okay. Well, okay. Fair enough. And then that segues nicely back into action, which is he finds this out, calls Hill because he's realised something's going on and he needs the one S.H.I.E.L.D. agent he trusts, and gets ambushed in his car straight away. His SUV. And really well. They kind of... Especially because he's been established so well as the spy,
he's Nick Fury. We haven't seen him do anything. Yeah, but just the way everyone else acts around him informs us of his character.
Because it's Samuel Jackson.
And it's Samuel
fills
Jackson.
the screen. But like the fact that they're able to, like, he comes up at a stoplight next to a cop car and takes their eyes on him as racism, or like, do you want to see? Do you think I've stolen this car? Kind of, but doesn't cop that they're in fact Hydra agents, and so they're able to like basically box him in with the 4 cars and just start pounding away at his bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
And he's got the car telling him like they're breaking the glass. I fucking know.
Yeah. This is really great. This, I think, shows how Fury is in an action scene compared to, say, how Cap or Widow's in an action scene. He's like gathering data. He's asking his computer what's going on, like checking out the roads ahead and everything, like gathering more and more information so he can make decisions. While like Cap would just fight his way out.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice difference in how he deals with situations.
He processes. He's not just reactionary.
Yeah.
And also, his car is full of toys.
Gadgets,
he's literally prepared for exactly this scenario because this is the kind of paranoid thing that he would dream up as something that might happen.
He's prepared for every scenario.
Yeah.
Like
except the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but yeah. For instance, like another scenario he's prepared for is that the helicarriers would be compromised because he's got spare targeting computers for them all.
He's just got like container boxes full of MacGuffins all over the place, like just all around the world. But yeah, no, what I really like about the scenes, so like I wouldn't really count the opening scene as part of this because that's kind of like just a well executed mission.
Yeah.
But every subsequent scene is the heroes on the back foot, like they're taken by surprise, and not like they're taken by surprise and then they sort of turn it back around to their favor. They never get it back to their favor. It is
they're always on the back.
They're
foot.
being hammered and hammered and hammered. And so in this one, like they have him trapped in his car, and they're hammering him and hammering, and eventually he like pulls out the 4-barreled whatever and like blowing them all away.
Yeah.
And then he takes off, and you're like, cool, he did it. No, he didn't do it. They start chasing him. They hem him in again. Like they keep trapping him. They keep hitting him, and they're always trying to find angles on him. And every time he gets caught, there's like guys popping out of cars running to get angles on him.
And like he like pulls one guy into his car and like takes his machine, like his Uzi off him and stuff.
And then he uses his always having knowledge that like there's an intersection coming up and the lights aren't in his favor, so he stops and sends them into it.
Yep.
But like the whole time, everything that he tries to do to get out of the situation, they've anticipated it, and they're waiting for him. And ultimately, the Winter Soldier is able to take him down.
This is the Winter Soldier reveal, which is it's such a beautiful shot.
I love.
It's just like
this blurry thing. So all of the bullet holes you can barely see, but there's definitely somebody standing in the road, and he only gets about a half a second to realize there's somebody standing in the road before this random disc gets fired under his car and launches him ass overhead. And then I like. This bullshit. Like he takes out a lightsaber or whatever and just like burns his way into the sewer.
Escaped MacGuffin.
Yeah, it's
and just disappears.
Like I'm not saying that I wanted the Winter Soldier to pull him out and break his neck, but this is just come on.
Yeah, if he had another like a more feasible way,
if they'd made a point, like if he had called Hill at headquarters instead of in the car, and so when he was in the car and your man had him dead to rights, Hill could show up, hit him with a car.
Yeah.
Pick him up and say, let's go. And that'd be enough. Like, I know that's been done 1,000 times. A person shows up in a car. But, like, that's no reason to come up with the most ridiculous escape route.
Yeah.
Which is cut a hole in the ground with your magical lightsaber that appeared there. And then once again later in the movie when Cap needs to escape something. And then that's it. Never again in the MCU does anyone use this magical get out of jail free lightsaber.
Yeah. My personal theory is that it's Stark's laser that he uses.
The one-use laser.
Yeah, the one-use laser that he uses to cut into everything.
This one-use laser that he'll probably poke one of Thanos' eyes out with.
Yeah, and that's it. That's how they win.
But yeah, and all of the action scenes kind of share a similar ethos with that. In that, like, it's so desperate. Every action scene is so desperate. Like they just never get a chance to breathe.
They're literally always fighting for their life.
Yeah, and it's. Everything happens so quickly. Like just when they're about to get some momentum, no, something else happens. Something else happens.
The roads fall out
from
underneath them.
And it's so exciting. I don't understand why isn't every Marvel movie so clever with the action? Like
because they're not all directed by the Russo brothers.
Why aren't the Russo brothers in charge? Why aren't the Russo brothers replacing Kevin Feige? Like? But yeah. So another thing that's important in this movie, aside from like Cap adjusting to the world and unbelievable action, is Cap and Black Widow, like Steve and Natasha, kind of become best friends. Like in this movie, this
is where we get proper interactions, or like the first proper interactions between them.
Yeah, like out of costume, out of character, because they're always kind of in character. Like just as people talking to each other and surviving this shit together. Like, and they they relate really well. Like there's
Yeah.
a couple of moments where they say stuff to each other that then they would throw back later.
Yeah, that happens a lot in this film. There's lots of references to things that happened earlier and setups and mirroring. It's really well put together.
Yeah, it makes everything. It makes all of the relationships feel really organic. I think that's what I was trying to say about Sam at the start of the movie. That they find something that they both identify with.
Yeah.
And Steve being just the consummate friendship man, you know, like, just immediately strikes up a friendship with this guy. And actually, him and Sam have a similar dynamic to the Punisher and the support group guy in the Punisher Netflix TV show, because that's like Falcon invites Steve to the Steve doesn't actually go; he just sort of shows up and watches.
He shows up and watches, just like
kind of like the Punisher, yeah. But that's sort of they bond, and it's the same. So it's the same with him and Black Widow. They bond through this movie,
and it's Sam that reaches out like. They have their witty banter, and then Steve is gonna like walk off and continue on his workout or whatever, and then Sam reaches out and like, oh, it's your bed, isn't it? That's what gets you. And he like extends that like vulnerableness that then Steve is like, okay, yeah, you get it.
Yeah, and there's not enough of that. Like that's something. It's weird. This is, I would say, it's got some like probably up there as one of the most action. Like in terms of
there's
like,
a lot of action.
Yeah,
scenes
just
in
like
this.
Percentage of movie devoted to pure action, percentage of dialogue that is like pure cynicism, or like that the overarching story is so cynical, like that the bad guys' motives are just a little too realistic, a little too just what America is doing, you know?
Yeah, it's scary. It hits close to home.
Yeah, so there's so much action, there's so much cynicism, and yet I would also argue that there's so much humanity, like so much more humanity in this movie than a lot of the other Marvel movies. Definitely most of the Phase 1 movies. And this is sort of like the start, I guess, of that trajectory towards more humanism, because that's like Guardians of the Galaxy is just pure humanity. And then sort of a lot of Phase 3, especially Black Panther, like just people having relationships with each other. It's weird that it took them that long to get that far, but like people having relationships with each other is becoming more and more important. And this, like, it's kind of, I don't really think about it anymore, even though they've been in a couple of movies together since, but like they never really again seemed as close as they do in this movie. I guess because they're never out of character or out of costume in any of the other movies, like together.
In other movies they don't have the time that they have in this movie.
Yeah, but they really I like them together. They have really great chemistry. I don't know if it's like Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, or just that those characters gel real well. But
yeah, I like Scarlett Johansson. I think is definitely doing the Robert Downey Jr. in the scenes, like bringing the charisma a bit. Not that Chris Evans isn't charismatic, but I think
Steve Rogers isn't.
Yeah, her character brings more charisma to the scenes than Steve Rogers would.
I like when I first saw this movie, and actually I still think like they'd make a great couple. Like
yeah, but that's what this movie is like hinting at and teasing.
Like they kind of, I think they have a better, like there's something very melodramatic about Black Widow and Hulk. Like their romance, it's very kind of fatalistic, you know, like, and over the top and kind of like, I got a hysterectomy, I'm a gamma giant. Like, you know, it's a bit much. Whereas in this movie, with none of that like high stakes bullshit, just a couple of conversations between two people, like it felt much more intimate. Like they felt much closer. They have much deeper connection,
and it feels like they also know each other very well, because the conversations they're having, it's like, what about this girl? What about this girl? You know, it seems like they've known each other for a while and they're comfortable with each other,
like coworkers.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Really coworkers. And it becomes like there's a couple of moments in the movie where you realize, where I thought, or like I read that Steve's respect is very important to Natasha. Like she never say it, she never displays it, but like every time, like when he catches her in the act, like later in the movie, or straight away in the movie, like when he catches her in the act of like taking the files, and he's like visibly disappointed in her, that affects her, it hurts her, you know.
She like the French guy gets away, or the Algerian.
Batroc,
the Algerian guy.
I could draw you a map.
Yeah, he gets away, and she's like, "Sorry, that's on me," and he's like, "Yeah, it is on you." And she, like, the camera lingers on her, and she's like, "Oh, damn it, it is on me. I've messed it up." He does like, I've actually messed up.
He's lost respect for me a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it seems it kind of comes up a lot where there's a conversation they have in a truck on their way to his old army base, where they're kind of just talking about being soldiers, or not about being like, kind of just talking about what they do for a living, which is, and she's trying to do her usual cynical, I'm Russian, I don't care, like this is my life, my career, and he's just being Steve, like no, you can always be better. You can always like,
he just like he cuts through all the bullshit. And he's like no, and like asks all the important cutting questions. Yeah,
and he doesn't let her wriggle out. Yeah. He's like, no, there's a kernel of truth in there. Yeah, and I don't believe you're giving it to me, and it's. Like it's disappointing to me that they never touch on it again, because this seems like, I get the impression that Black Widow wants to be something more. She would like to be like Captain America, you know. She would like to be this sort of, and
that's sort of her journey in this movie.
Yeah, because she says to him, "When I joined Shield, I thought I was going straight."
Yeah,
and yet again, the world has turned out to be this, corrupt, horrible place, and Steve is, She wants to wallow in it and just kind of accept that it's always going to be bad, and I have to be bad to and Steve won't let her.
She's sort of like the reverse journey to Steve's journey. So Steve starts out like, I don't know where I am, what I'm going to do. How do I fit into this world? She's like, I know where I am. And then as the movie progresses, Steve's like, no, now I know what to do. I have to tell the world that this is right and this is wrong, because everyone else is fucking crazy. Yeah. And she starts out like, I'm doing good. And then at the end of the movie, she's lost. And she's like, I'm going to spend some time finding myself and figuring out what I want to be.
Yeah. That's another... Well, maybe we'll save that for the end. But I liked at the end of this movie, there's a side character montage. Yeah. Which that's never happened in any other Marvel movie. Yeah. Because every other Marvel movie is just about the hero. But in this movie, it actually affords all of the side characters time to establish that, you know what? People besides the heroes have trajectories, Other people have lives that they are living, and aspirations and dreams. Like, they all go on to get different jobs. Like, Shield explodes, and they all, like Sharon Carter gets a job at the CIA. Yeah. Maria Hill gets a job at Stark, which is probably just her cover to investigate Stark.
Definitely.
But like everybody sort of gets.
You see everybody's where they're going after all of these events.
Yeah, which is like something that the Marvel movies could do more. That give us sort of a. It's kind of like the way that we never really, we don't know anything about Pepper except in context with Tony. Yeah. Even though she's got like an incredibly complex life going on, outside of Tony. And we don't know about any of that. So imagine the movie where, at the end of Iron Man 4 or whatever, Tony goes off to do whatever he goes off to do, but then we go and see what's Pepper up to, what's Happy up to, that kind of. Yeah. It's something that never would have occurred to me. That's the thing. They could have just kept making movies the way they have been the whole time. It never would have occurred to me had the Russo brothers not chosen to introduce this in this movie. Yeah. And now I want more. I want to see what every side character. Not I would argue that all the side characters they chose to show us were important.
Yeah, important. They're relevant because they all play roles in the film throughout.
Yeah, and I think they deserved the little bit. They deserved the epilogue they got.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, so like you were saying, the arc of Cap and Natasha is kind of at cross purposes. Yeah. In that Cap's trying to find his place, and Natasha is learning that she no longer has a place. And I think a lot of what we talked about in the first Captain America movie and in the Avengers was that Cap is unflappable, unshakable. He just is.
He just knows what to do in every situation.
And so I think this movie, without compromising that aspect of Cap, he's still the all-American hero who, never quit, never say die. Yeah. And we found what, makes him sad, and it's uselessness. It's kind of discovering that there is no, you have no purpose.
Yeah, that there might not be a place in this world for him anymore.
Yeah, it's basically being a millennial. He was like being a millennial. He grew up believing that there was sort of a place waiting for him and that he would find meaning. Found it, got frozen for 70 years, woke up and discovered they've taken it away again. And it's there's a scene early on in the movie. It's the scene where they establish this outdoor elevator, where him and Nick are going down
Yeah.
to look at the Insight Lab, and Nick is telling him a story about his grandpa, who was like an elevator operator in some city somewhere, and would like get tips and have to go home with those tips. And it used to be that like the neighborhood was really friendly, and he'd say hi to everybody, and he'd say hi back, and then later on, as he got older, for some reason worked as an elevator operator for 40 years. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an elevator operator, but it just seems like he must have wanted to try something else at some point, right?
Yeah, I guess social mobility and job changing wasn't
that's
as
fair.
possible back then.
But anyway, so he tells the story, and the point of the story is that later in life, as the neighborhood that his granddad lived in changed and became more...
And got rougher.
Yeah, became gentrified.
Yeah.
He found himself frightened enough that he would carry a gun. So he had his tips in his lunch bag, and he started putting a gun in there so that if anybody fucked with him, he could show them that he had the capacity to defend himself.
Yeah.
And that's the point that Nick is trying to make to Cap. That
Yeah.
all he was trying to do was to demonstrate for everybody that I have the capacity to defend myself if you choose to engage with me.
Yeah.
That's
Fury's point. Is like these are a preventative measure.
Yeah, and a lot like Tony's armor around the world idea.
Yeah.
It's a lot of what all of the entitled Western males come up with in these stories. But like, all I could think when he was telling that story is that that's Cap's generation he's talking about. Cap is from Nick Fury's granddad's generation.
Yeah.
He would have grown up in the New York during the time when they had people who would operate elevators. I don't know if they just didn't have automatic elevators or whatever until a certain time, but
because they needed people to like
pull the lever.
Yeah, pull the lever and stuff.
So like Cap would have grown up in that New York, and is of that same generation. So like Nick is basically telling Cap a story about a world that Cap comes from, and not seeing the irony inherent in that. Like, and that's the frustration. And so it's not really, he doesn't touch on it. Like Cap doesn't mention it or anything. Like he just sort of treats the point at face value, as he does with everything. But it's just something I had in my head that there's it adds an extra layer of subtext. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the Russo brothers, or whoever actually wrote the movie, didn't put that in there on purpose, recognizing that Cap is of that same generation you're talking about, Nick.
Yeah.
Like Cap has both perspectives.
Yeah. The closer I look at each of these films, the more I realise that yes, there always are deeper meanings that the writers or the directors are putting in.
Except in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, Thor: The Dark World. Whether they try to put in these extra layers, or these extra ironies and things like that.
It's really like pleasing to watch a movie that doesn't patronize me. Like there's something that you can't. It's not something that you would. I think like it's not something that you might necessarily all the time be able to. Like it's. This is going to be one of those things where I trail off, and then I'm going to have to cut out this entire part where I figure out what I'm actually talking about. But anyway, it's one of those things where you could go to a movie and not notice it, but have a bad feeling about the movie, because it over-explains things. Basically anything by Zack Snyder. Like, it just sort of beats you over the head with its point when you got the point before it even started trying to make it. Like, it's a very obvious thing, Yeah. And when a movie doesn't hold your hand like that, when a movie actually trusts you to have the intelligence or the reasoning or the capacity necessary to understand the fairly general, objective terms it's, trying to communicate, it's really pleasant. And again, it's something that you might not necessarily notice, but I think it elevates movies a lot when they trust the audience to... You don't even have...
To keep up.
Yeah, to keep up, exactly.
Yeah, I think the genre, I guess, of this movie helps with that as well, because it's a spy movie, sort of, about, like, two sides that are playing off against each other. So it can't tell you everything. It has to keep some things back. It has to, like, slowly deal out the pieces of information so that you get those big reveals, because you have those crazy reveals in this, that it is Hydra all along. So it being a spy movie helps with the not being patronising, because it can't tell you everything.
That's a good point, actually. That's something I didn't write down, like, in my notes. Like, it was, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. was Hydra. Like, I guess it didn't hit me because I knew that I've seen the movie before. I knew it was going to happen. But I'm trying to remember, like, when I first saw this movie, that must have been earth-shattering.
Yeah. Like it's first revealed really when they go to Zola at the base, and Zola's like, Hydra was the parasite growing inside S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So like up until that point, you think maybe just Shield has turned away and it's lost its way.
Well, maybe it's more that this guy Pierce is trying to take control of Shield
Pierce
use
is
it to his own ends.
Yeah, corrupting it and taking it over. Which, I mean, he is, but for Hydra.
Yeah. But that's kind of crazy, that reveal. I wonder... I can't remember how I took that when I saw it originally, but it feels like that must have been...
Yeah. The one thing I really remember from this time was that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, just came out. And the first half of season 1 was just holding pattern, Monster of the Week style episodes. And then Winter Soldier came out. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. exploded. And it was amazing because the reveal that half of the agents are Hydra carried over into the TV show. Yeah. And it was amazing.
No, I remember, because I hated that show. I still hate that show. But when Ward turned out to be a bad guy, first of all, fucking cool. Jesus Christ, Ward? He's one of the main guys. He's the Captain America of the team. Yeah, so he turns out to be a bad guy.
He's the typically handsome,
the all-American jock guy who protects everybody. But not only that, but then it turned out that actor can act. You know what I mean? Then he gets to actually perform and do some stuff instead of just being Ward the whole time.
Yeah.
And I hated him for all of those episodes right up until he turned out to be evil Ward, and then I was like, oh shit, okay. He was pretending to be boring. That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, no, it's weird that I don't even register. I wonder when I actually saw it in the movie and turned out to be Hydra, did I expect it? Because I avoid the trailers as much as I can. Although I don't think the trailers ever actually...
I can't remember. I cannot remember the trailers to this at all.
But yeah.
The only thing, one other thing I remember from this is that Stefan, our friend Stefan, hated Captain America as a character. And I was like, come on, you gotta come see this film. And he saw it, and he's like, that was actually a good film. I actually liked this Captain America. Because he was conflicted and wasn't just like I'm right all the time, blah-de-da-de-da.
Ironically, as we got to in our Captain America, the First Avenger podcast, I don't think he ever was, I'm right all the time. He's always been... He's one of those guys who just fucking thinks before he acts. He tries to do the right thing. He considers
what's the best thing to do.
Whereas some people have a plan. Attack. But also, what this movie does a much better job of, I think, is living in Cap's tragedy. Because, as we kept saying during the First Avenger and the Avengers, Cap's story is just pure tragedy.
Oh yeah.
Just nothing but tragedy. Everybody he loves, he loses. Most of the time, it's his fault.
Yep.
And then he sort of gets this... I guess you could say this should have been a second chance, He gets to come back and sort of live in a new world with a whole new set of people and problems and ideas to get his head around. It's worse. First of all, the America he fought for, this is just the worst possible... He's woken up in the what is the worst timeline? What's that community thing?
The darkest timeline.
The darkest timeline. He went to sleep, woke up 70 years later in the darkest timeline.
They lost something.
They lost their soul. And then, the woman he loved has dementia. They have that unbelievably heartbreaking scene where they're having this they still have that same magic between them, the witty banter, and they're throwing it back and forth. And then he goes to get her a glass of water, turns around, and she has completely forgotten. Yeah. And she's like, oh my god, Steve, you're still alive.
So, this... When I saw this scene this time, I was like, every time he goes to see her, this must happen.
Yeah.
Every single time. How can he do that? How can he continue to go see her? That must be heartbreaking. And that he chooses, because you can't even argue that he's just holding on to the past, because like you said, every time he goes there, she's forgotten him again. Yeah.
So it's not. I doubt there's a lot of kind of warm nostalgia in going to visit her. It's got to be just this depressing fucking chore every time. But
he wouldn't see it that way.
Yeah, no, exactly. Steve wouldn't see it that way. My granny got Alzheimer's, and I remember the moment when I realized she didn't remember me, and thinking about doing that every day, having to go through that moment every single day, Jesus Christ, once was enough,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so the woman that he loves gets dementia and has basically forgotten him, and he's just sort of in this endless cycle of being there for her as she slowly dies and forgets him completely. And then all of his friends are dead. He makes a joke about his barbershop quartet are all dead. So
yeah.
But more importantly, he has no friends. He has Black Widow, but I don't see them going to play pool together.
Yeah.
He has nothing outside of his job.
Yeah, and he tries. We get to see him just before he meets Fury in his apartment, we get to see him try to reach out to Agent 13.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh no, that's okay." But then she pushes him away, but then pulls him back a little bit to keep him at just that right distance where she's friendly and potentially interested in him, so that she can be in his life.
Yeah, but she never has to compromise her cover, which that's even more depressing. Yeah. And that's something that somebody is actively doing to him. Fury has put her there and given her specific instructions to make sure make sure you're kind of can always engage with him anytime you need to, but never actually fucking get too close. So basically, give him the potential for a friend, but no friendship. It's so depressing, and that goes into the third thing that I think just makes Cap's entire modern life a huge tragedy, is that he can't trust anyone. Like all of the people in his life, like all the people that he gets to see every day, including his fucking neighbor, he can't trust them. And that's a huge part of him, is trusting people, is everybody, all of the characters in the first movie. He trusts Erskine to inject him with some shit. He trusts Howard Stark to put him in this fucking chamber and shoot sunbeams at him or whatever. And even when it's like he's obviously clearly in excruciating pain, he's like, no, do it. I trust you guys. Do it. Do whatever you're trying to do. I can take it. You know. He trusts Peggy Carter. He trusts the Tommy Lee Jones character. He trusts Bucky. Like everybody he trusts. Especially Bucky, he can no longer trust those people. Yeah. So he has nothing. And yet he keeps fighting for the greater good. Like, it's heartbreaking stuff, you know? And this movie lets you have it. And so, going all the way back to the dementia scene, in the first movie, at the end, in the first Avenger movie, at the end, like we said, he has that scene where he turns almost to camera and says, I had a date. Yeah. And then it almost gives it a moment, but then immediately the kind of patriotic cue card music swells up and it becomes kind of a punchline. Whereas in this movie, in the dementia scene, he sort of starts the conversation over again, and he's being real nice and saying, "I could never
couldn't leave my best girl, not when we had
a dance." Yeah, and then it leaves it there.
Yeah, you have that lingering. The music's like subdued. Yeah, and it's sad.
It's so sad,
and it gives it that room to be sad. There's no witty one-liner quip right after it.
And the movie is just pure excellent filmmaking. Like, it's so well constructed, and they understand. They're one of the few Marvel directors who understand both dramatic timing and comedic timing. So it's not just that when in doubt, fucking throw another quip in. Yeah. They understand how to give something dramatic weight without destroying the whole movie, you know? Yeah.
And they do have those witty one-liners. They are in this film, but they're good. Yeah. They don't feel out of place. They don't feel...
They're appropriate.
Yeah, they don't feel like stapled on or shoved in. They feel like that's what the characters would say in that moment.
Exactly. And that's, especially, there's the one that we both earmarked was when Cap gives his inspiring speech. So Cap, after everything, basically, Cap comes back to S.H.I.E.L.D., takes over the PA, and announces to everybody that Hydra has corrupted S.H.I.E.L.D. Like half of the people in this building right now.
Yeah, this is Cap's true superpower. His inspiring other people to do good.
He has an inspiring presence, and that's... Oh my god, the guy, Captain's orders. Like, anyway, so he gets into the building, gets on the PA system, announces to everybody that half of the people in this building, including people that are probably standing right next to you, are Hydra agents.
These people are definitely Hydra agents. I don't know how many more are. Yeah. But they are there.
And then goes on, so he gives them the information and then goes on to say that, like, I'm going to do what I can. And you don't have to do anything, but I think you will. Like, I believe in you. I believe in the righteousness of the people who wanted to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Who didn't sign up to this to be a part of this fucking Hydra, who wanted to join S.H.I.E.L.D.
You want to make the world a better place.
You wanted to improve things. You wanted to help people, and I believe in you. And then, like, kind of signs off. And Sam, who right all through the movie has been established as a sort of everyman foil to Steve Rogers. Like, he's the guy who's like, when Steve said, I must be slowing down, he's like, oh, you better do another lap. Yeah. Did you do it? I assume you did it, you know? Like, he's constantly going like, don't look at me, I just do what he does, except slower. Like, he's the guy who fully recognizes that he is way out of his depth, and just decides to deal with that by making fun of everybody. Like, making fun of these superhuman people. He just decides, the only thing I can do is to kind of tear them down a little bit. So as soon as
follow along in unfinished footsteps.
So as soon as Steve finishes his speech, he kind of leans in and goes, "So did you write that down first, or was that off the top of your head?"
Off the cuff.
Which is just pure. It's exactly what Sam would do. It doesn't undercut the kind of the drama of the moment.
Yeah,
like it's still
like the speech itself doesn't interfere with that at all.
Yeah, the speech is preserved, especially because I think the speech is preserved. The inspiration is still there. Sam makes his joke, which just adds more to the friendship between him and Steve, and then we immediately cut to the result of the speech, right? Yeah. Because then we cut to this poor kid,
the lab tech guy.
Yeah, the lab tech, who's apparently this one guy is in charge of launching all 3 ships.
Yeah,
I don't know why they have this entire Capcom thing, but apparently it's all down to this guy. And Rumlow's like, launch the ship, puts a gun to his head, launch the ships, and he's like, no, captain's orders. And then, like, as soon as he says that, and that's sort of everyone in the room, you can feel there's this friction, like there's this
tension.
Like everyone in the room is sort of waiting to see what's anybody else going to do.
Yeah, who's going to make a move first?
Yeah, and so this kid sort of gives like everybody, like Cap gave him the inspiration. This kid gives them the catalyst, like the trigger.
Yeah, he sets it off.
It's like captain's orders, and Agent 23 doesn't miss a beat. Stands up, gun to Rumlow's head. You heard the kid, captain's orders, and then everybody draws guns, and it's like that Xbox 360 ad where everybody's like pointing fingers at each other, and they're all just waiting for something to happen, and that's like Cap's sort of that the movie takes the time to establish Cap's tragedy and the drama of everything, like give everything the appropriate amount of weight.
Yeah, really
makes scenes like that pay off, because when Cap at the end of everything chooses to sort of double down, like to re-up with truth, patriotism in the American way, and drop the mic on that speech, like it hits home so hard, it's worth it. Like he earned it. He earned all of those people's loyalty. Yeah. So like when everybody starts shoot, like, and it's kind of sad because there's a couple of moments where like there's you can see one of the crews walking toward, like the Hydra crews walking towards the helicarrier, and there's 2 guards there who've just heard the speech, and they're like.
Yeah, as the speach is ending, those guys are walking in, and the guys are like,
they're putting their hands in their gun. There's just 2 of them against like 8 guys, and they're like, "What do we have to do something, Cap?" And they don't even get a chance to pull their guns. They just get shot. Like it's sad, and I think it's timed, right? It's at the point of the speech where he said, "We're all going to have to make sacrifices."
It's really well timed and put together. And there's like the guys who are like opening the bay doors, and they're like, "Close the bay doors!"
They're all getting shot down. Yeah, it's just really well put together, and it makes had it been in a different movie, like had they not allowed, like had every previous dramatic moment been undercut by a quip, this moment of Cap saying the speech and everybody getting mown down, it would have played like melodrama. It would have come across as way over the top. Like it would have been completely unearned. Yeah. And it would have not worked. Like it would have just not been a great scene. But because this movie understood enough about the Captain America character to allow him to be this kind of tragic hero figure, it made this scene work so much better than it would have in any other movie. Yeah, is what I think.
Yeah, they really do understand weight and timing and the room for drama that drama needs to be impactful.
But what I want to know, so this goes for basically every action scene in the movie, including the ending. This is Washington D.C. Yep. This is where the president lives. In fact, with their proximity to the Washington Monument, this is exactly where the president lives. There is, my understanding is that there is a CAG, like there is an air patrol of F-22s that circle Capitol Hill at all times, 24 hours a day.
Probably, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And whenever anything happens in that airspace, they are called instantaneously. And I don't know much about F-22s, but I'm pretty sure they can travel incredibly fast.
They're very fast.
Like, they could get to the Triskelion in moments. Yeah. I think that's a fair assumption.
I'm pretty sure they could also just shoot at it from...
miles away.
Yeah, from
fire a missile.
Over the horizon.
Yeah. We could take it back even further to, when Nick Fury is being attacked by terrorists. Doesn't matter what terrorists, whether they're Hydra or not, whether they're dressed like cops or not, they are firing automatic weapons at a black SUV in the middle. Black SUVs being a very important vehicle to the American government, firing unbelievable amounts of ammunition at a black SUV in the middle of downtown Washington D.C.
Yeah. The only thing that I can think of as to why nobody shows up is Pierce is pulling strings so that nobody shows up.
I don't know that,
because he, maybe we have a shield operation going down here, don't interfere.
I don't know.
That's the only like possible explanation I could think of, besides the fact that it's a movie and they can't have the army show up.
It isn't. I'm just, but like that. This is what we're here to do: pick a movie apart. Like I just don't no, that doesn't make sense because there's no way Pierce could have. There's too many different agencies with different overlapping jurisdictions. Like it would.
Yeah.
And
so I imagine because Shield HQ is here, I imagine they have.
Yeah, but not where Nick was when he started getting shot at.
That's true.
He was just out in the street somewhere in the middle of DC. Like, not even a cop shows up. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't fit. But again, that adds to the desperation of the action scene. So I'm not going to argue. Like, it's like, the scene, like the Winter Soldier scene where he's fighting Cap and Widow and Falcon. That goes on for such a long time.
It does.
How does the army not show up?
Yeah, or somebody. But they do. Shield shows up at the end and takes everybody. Well, Shield.
Yeah, I don't know. It just that's just something. It didn't ruin the movie for me at all. Like, it's fine. And also there was this sort of constant frenetic pace. Like it did feel like all the action scenes were taking place in real time. So maybe the response times just weren't. You know, they just weren't on point that week.
Can we talk about their plan?
No, I don't want to.
With Sitwell?
Their plan to kidnap him?
Yeah, no, what they plan to do with Sitwell after they kidnap him. So they've found out that, at this point, they've found out that Hydra is there. So they've been to the army base. I want to go back to that afterwards. But they kidnap Sitwell, who's a Hydra agent, because they figured out that he was on the boat. And they're going to use him to break into the Triskelion and stop everything. How is that a good idea? There's like 3 of them. The Triskelion's going to be the heaviest guarded building in DC.
It was difficult to break out of.
Yeah. And they're just going to use Sitwell to like scan their way in. How?
That actually makes me wonder how they did it when they did it. Because they did it. Like 3 of them got in. That's how they did it in the end.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Without Sitwell.
Yeah.
Sitwell was dead at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not a great plan. But then again, that's Cap style. Why wouldn't we just go in the front door, you know?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I have a question. Zola. When he
downloaded himself into a
throughout
computer.
the first film, it was all about like he was working for Red Skull, but like I got the feeling that he wanted to survive.
Yeah,
like he was there for himself more,
and he liked the science.
Yeah,
he was like
he was a scientist.
He would not have gotten the opportunity to do the science that he was doing under any other circumstances.
Exactly.
So for that reason, he stuck with.
Yeah. So then he got Operation Paperclip over to America and started Hydra in Shield because I don't know. So
he's a parasite.
Yeah, and then eventually he becomes Zola from the comics and becomes a machine.
Yeah,
and then he just monologues to kill himself and Captain. And Widow. So
he stayed alive as a machine for 50 years, waiting for Cap to find him so he could blow up Cap.
Yeah. So that like his character is all about surviving and doing the science and living as long as possible to do more science. And then he's just like, no, this is where I've made my algorithm. I'm done. I've got no more science in me. I've got to kill Cap.
Yeah. No, I like. It actually didn't occur to me that he's a consummate survivor. So why would he abandon that here for the sake of taking Cap out as he dies?
Yeah.
But even beyond that, just from a pure narrative standpoint, why'd you have to write it like that? Like, so he kept himself alive 50 more years, like beyond his natural death, doing essentially nothing. I guess he was working the algorithm.
Yeah.
As a computer.
Yeah. So Hydra had him on, like, still doing things, I guess.
Yeah. But he had no. He couldn't do anything. He was trapped, like in this basement.
Unless 50 years of being trapped in a supercomputer made out of 200,000 feet of tape. And
he, it seemed like he'd been off for a real long time when Cap found him. So I don't know what that feels like to a computer.
Yeah.
But it does. It seems like someone turned him off at some point, and he's just been sitting there.
Well, to a computer, it would be like as if no time had passed at all.
Okay. So then, how does he know that Stephen Strange is going to be a sorcerer? Right?
Well, he doesn't know. He just wrote the algorithm that predicted that Strange would be a problem for Hydra.
Yeah, but when did he write the algorithm? Because how long has he been asleep? Because what if now it's, say, 15 years since he completed the algorithm and he's been turned back on by Cap? And what if everything's changed? 15 years ago, he didn't know Cap was going to be awake.
That's true.
or like that there'd be a Chitauri invasion, or that
or
Thanos
anything.
was coming.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, it didn't really make any sense. Like, I understand that they had to.
This was the explain everything.
Yeah, it was
section.
the exposition scene, but I understand that they wanted to put a sort of OG Hydra agent in it.
Yeah.
But first of all, he was never really a Hydra agent. Like, he was just stringing
Not really,
along.
yeah.
Like, you know, he didn't believe in the cause of Hydra. He believed in getting access to the Tesseract to do crazy science.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it became opportune to abandon that, he was happy to leave and go live in America.
Yeah.
So it is a bit ludicrous that he would have then been the sort of the resurgent founder of the new Hydra. Like, I don't know. Like, there was a lot of Hydra shoving going on in this movie that I felt was unnecessary.
Yeah,
like,
there was a lot of like, "Hail Hydra, we're Hydra agents." Ah.
That I don't know. It felt very old world. Like, I guess it was kind of making Cat feel at home.
Yeah,
But yeah, it didn't fit with how competent they were as bad guys, because they were super competent. Like, their plan was going off without a hitch. Like, and
our heroes were constantly on the back foot, constantly
yeah.
fighting just to survive.
Like, they seem to be able to surprise the unsurprisable Nick Fury at every hand's turn, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, they kept trying to shove Hydra in every way they could to sort of validate their choice of Hydra as the big bad in the movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it. Like, especially the Winter Soldier, who in the comics, like, not that I'm a huge comics nerd, but I read that story. I've read the Captain America gets assassinated story, and the kind of the mainline Winter Soldier stuff, and I really liked. He was a Soviet spy essentially, and in a kind of not too heavily fictionalized version of our world. Like, you know, it wasn't this sort of weird hyper reality where Hydra has been behind everything for the last 70 years. Like, he was just, you know, whatever mission they had, that train mission was in a cold Russian place, like Eastern Europe somewhere. He got found by the Russian army as they won the war, and then they had a program going on that they figured he'd be good for, and so they turned him into a super soldier, gave him a metal arm, and woke him up every so often to kill a world leader. And there's no reason why they couldn't have had that and then had Hydra bust in at some point and be like, he's ours now, you know?
Yeah.
If they were so determined to have Hydra in the movie.
Right, yeah, that's true.
But it does feel like...
But he is like a sort of Russian creation, right? He has
he has
the red star.
Yeah, the Soviet star on his shoulder. So, exactly, and so they still the star. Why isn't it a fucking octopus? You know, if he's Hydra, right?
Yeah.
Like, commit or don't. And so that's why I'm thinking, like, was Hydra always in the movie? Like, all the way from the first draft? Or was that something that was grafted on afterwards? Was there a sort of an evil organization, and then when Kevin Feige kind of read over the first draft, said, no, not an evil organization, Hydra, bring Hydra back. Hydra is Captain America's worst enemy.
Maybe.
Instead of just like some Soviet, like Batroc, like maybe that kind of Batroc and then the Winter Soldier were linked somehow. Maybe there was some general European terrorist consortium that were working to destabilize S.H.I.E.L.D., you know. Like, or it was always supposed to be Hydra and it just, for some reason, feels weird.
And they stole Winter Soldier off screen.
Yeah.
Because that's probably what they did to get him.
Yeah, like it makes sense more, I think, than Hydra has just been behind everything since forever.
Yeah.
As cool as that is as an idea, it just opens you up to so many logical inconsistencies that it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah.
Which, good time to start talking about Pierce, the Palpatine of the MCU. His job is basically to manipulate politicians who aren't even there.
Yeah, who aren't even there. He's really good at manipulating them too.
Yeah, and but it did feel a lot like Palpatine to me, where he was kind of going, well, what, do you want me to resign? I'll get some paper right here.
Yeah.
Like, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
We want you in charge.
We want you to actually do the thing you want to do.
Yeah, we want you to launch Insight. It's like,
the Insight program.
Okay, I guess I'll do that. I mean, Nick Fury wanted to delay it, but if you guys want it...
That's definitely not why I tried to have him killed.
And I do like the overarching allegory of, like, Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. together are basically the Patriot Act. Like, they're basically modern over-governmental America. Yeah. Kind of.
It's kind of on the nose how Patriot Act they are.
Like, they make the point of...
government spying and everything.
Zola makes the point of they were only too happy to give up their freedom in exchange for security.
Yeah.
And that's like that's America, you know, like they're. It's depressing, kind
Yeah,
of,
it is.
how much like a fictional hyper Nazi regime the actual American government has become, but it works a lot. Like it grounds the story weirdly.
Yeah, it grounds it and it makes it resonate more.
Yeah, as ostentatious as the telling is, it does feel real grounded and realistic.
Yeah,
and,
it's got that kernel of truth.
yeah, and Captain America is sort of literally fighting against, you know,
It's like the American dream.
yeah, like he's in literal terms he's fighting against his like unfrozen former best friend turned Soviet / Hydra
Super
metal
soldier.
armed super soldier agent and the, you know, corrupt parasite living in the core of the organization that he's aligned himself with as he's woken up in the future. But figuratively, he's fighting the modern American government, like,
Yeah.
which is basically what S.H.I.E.L.D. is, and that's
Yeah. Pierce also, like in other movies, we have our villains who are like mirrors of our hero.
yeah,
Pierce isn't really a mirror for Captain America. If
Mirror for
anything,
Fury.
he's a mirror of Fury. He's Fury if Fury went down a slightly different path
yeah,
and took that extra step in like morality, where like I'll sacrifice 20 million to save 7 billion.
yeah. And there's even the like they kind of established that the genesis of Pierce's journey towards becoming this sort of amoral,
Total big picture kind of guy.
was in fact something Nick Fury did back in the day,
Yeah.
which was they were sort of negotiating with, I think it was like some hostage takers,
Yeah,
in
hostage takers in
Guatemala or somewhere, Nicaragua.
a U.S. embassy or something like that, and Pierce's daughter was there.
Oh, okay. And then, so they were like talking. It's like, so what are we going to do about this? And basically, Nick Fury just went in and got everybody out.
Yeah.
Like didn't wait for anybody's clearance, didn't wait for backup, just went in and got it done. And that's sort of what Pierce sees himself as doing right now. But some part of him must know that it's wrong because he hasn't tried to get Nick on side.
That's a fair point.
And he kind of I don't know, I'm not sure if it's the way that Redford plays him or the way the character's written, but it does seem like a lot of the time when he's convincing other people, he's also convincing himself a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's the weird scene right before the elevator fight where he tries to manipulate Cap into like getting on side with him.
Yeah.
And then immediately tries to kill him. Like, I don't know if he maybe gave Rumlow orders and we didn't see it, or it was off screen because we hadn't got the reveal that he was the bad guy yet. But it was pretty clear that he was a bad guy, and it was a weird scene.
Yeah, it was
have
a very it was a scene where it's like, look at me, I've done all this thing with, because it was sort of his proper introduction, give him some backstory.
Yeah.
And here's all the things.
You can trust me for these reasons
Yeah,
that I'm
'cause
about to list.
I'm a friend of Fury, and
Yeah.
you're a friend of Fury, and by the transitive property, we're friends.
And Fury has done these sort of wacky things, and I'm in
Yeah.
favour of wacky things from time to time.
Yeah, so the reason I think he got his squad to go after Cap when he left is because he couldn't say anything to Cap to be like, no, you can't leave, you gotta stay on side, because Cap would have just destroyed him, he's an old man.
I don't think Cap would have attacked him.
No, he might have knocked him out or something, but so like when he left he's like, I can't let him leave because he knows something, and once he's gone I
no
can't
control
guarantee
anymore,
I can't guarantee he'll come back, so gotta stop him leaving. So let's do an amazing elevator fight scene.
Yeah. I like...
That was amazingly like set up, or like the elevator was set up amazingly earlier in the movie as well.
And again, the bad guys, I mean, I assume they wanted to take him alive. So like,
Yes.
well, like what I was going to say is the bad guys were being real competent in that they all brought these kind of taser batons and
Magnetic
cuffs to try and hold him down, and Jesus Christ, he is strong. Like, this is
Yeah.
another feat of strength that we see. There's like at least 6 guys, all of them
And the
pulling-
mad cuff.
Yeah, see, a mad cuff is trying to pull his wrist towards the magnetic, like the metal part of the elevator, and 6 guys are trying to push it as well at the same time, and somehow Cap overpowers all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they tried to come prepared.
Can we just say how amazing the tension builds in that scene? Because
More guys keep getting on.
as we start this scene, it's like, okay, Cap's just had this weird talk with this guy. He doesn't know who to trust.
Yeah.
He's going down the elevator, and we see him thinking. And people are getting on, and Rumlow gets on, and they
have to talk about...
Rumlow is like the the most professional of all. He's like casual, having a talk.
Yeah.
And then more people get on. And then more people, and you're like, why are we still in this elevator with Cap?
And there's like then two huge guys get on and say records. It's like, you're not going to records.
Yeah, and then like, if you hadn't already realized it, Cap's like, before we start, does anyone want to get off?
Oh, so cool. What a cool
and then
guy.
you just have that moment after that. Again, it gives it that perfect amount of time, and then the guy in front of Cap turns around and it all kicks off.
Jesus, that's another thing. Like, beyond how fucking cool the action is, like just the amazing things they come up with in terms of how everybody fights and how they deal with it.
Yeah.
But also that they give everything the time that it requires.
Yeah.
To hit you, you know.
Yeah. Like this was like a good long build up of them getting in the elevator, going down the floor, getting in, going down the floor, getting in.
And it was real. As soon as you cop it, you're like, what a good idea. Like, you've got him trapped in this tiny place. Yeah. You can stop at any point where he won't be able to escape. And, like, I don't know how many people it would take to bring Cap down, but you're really putting all the odds in your favour as you're kind of restricting him as much as possible. Like, it's a good idea. Like, again, it's the competence of the bad guys. Bad guys are so much more intimidating. Like, they make for a much better screen presence the better they are at their job.
Yeah, if they are good at being bad.
Like, the Winter Soldier is so good at his job.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so competent. Every time they send him out to do something, he fucking gets it done.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that's actually, so that's something I want to talk about, because the first time Winter Soldier... is it the first time?
The first time is when...
Oh, the first time is when he almost gets Fury, and then doesn't. But then later that day, when Fury goes to Cap's house... So I'm going to call that his first mission.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
It's to kill Fury.
Yeah, his first mission is to kill Fury. And so later that day, when he's figured out where Fury would go, which is to Cap.
Yeah.
And he's waiting across the street with a sniper rifle and
an anti-material rifle.
Yeah, and somehow figures out where he is and shoots him through the wall 3 times in the chest. I think.
Yep.
I heard like 2 or 3 bangs.
3 shots in the chest with a rifle that could take off your arm.
Yeah, with the rifle that goes through a brick house first.
Yeah.
And Fury fucking survives. I just kill him. Like, explain to me why Fury needs to still be in the franchise. He did nothing in Age of Ultron. He showed up halfway through the movie at the farm because Tony was having some doubts or something, and gave him a bit of a talking to about fixing a tractor, but it was all metaphors or whatever. And then he showed up with the helicarrier. Why couldn't Maria Hill show up with the helicarrier?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you needed to keep Nick Fury around. I understand he's a fan favourite, and like you never want to have Samuel L. Jackson leave your franchise, but oh my god, this movie's already an incredible movie. But this movie could have been The Dark Knight if they had killed Sam Jackson. If they had just shot and killed Fury.
If the stakes...
Exactly!
If the stakes actually like had an impact. If something went wrong for the heroes and it had a permanent effect.
That is the only thing this movie needed, was stakes. And oh my god, if you had just killed Fury... Like... The rest of the story could have played it absolutely the same. You know what would have been fucking cool? If Black Widow, after turning out to be the old woman in the council chamber and taking everybody out, had produced from her fucking pocket Nick Fury's extracted eyeball.
Because she knew.
Because she knew, and she took it out of his head after he died.
Oh my god.
And then brought it to this situation. And then the moment where she chooses to release everything, all of S.H.I.E.L.D., all of Hydra, including all of her own secrets, it would have had so much more emotional payoff, because Nick Fury was like a surrogate father to her. And she has that scene earlier in the movie where she says, when I joined S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought I was going straight. Nick Fury was her, like, avenue towards being a good person. Now Cap is. And Cap, she's just heard him give a speech where he says, no more compromises, no more grey area.
Right thing.
Everything's got to go. We're doing the right thing. So she's like, fuck yeah, fire sale. Everything's got to go. And so she does it and uses the removed, weird, fucked up eye of Nick Fury that everybody's been waiting to see. Yeah. And you don't get to see it. Like, I know it was cool seeing it when he lifts up the eye patch, cool. But it would have been even cooler if it was just in her fucking hand. Oh my god, that would have been gruesome and macabre and awesome.
Yeah. Possibly too gruesome for a Marvel film. Possibly. Which is the problem.
But no, because it's been done. Because Loki did it. He fucking jabbed this thing into a guy's eye, which I think cut the guy's eye out or something and teleported it.
Okay, the tool Loki used and the effect it had didn't line up. It was like a spinning bladed death ball, and it just made a holographic image of your man's eye.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it worked, but it looked fucking gruesome as shit. And
and sounded it.
I don't think having Nick Fury's eye be show up in Black Widow's
Possession.
would have been any more gruesome than that, and it would have been fucking cool. It would have, it would have also she has that kind of, fuck you mortals scene at the end when she's given her deposition or whatever for the council, and they're all like, you people all need to be arrested, and she's like, fuck you, you're not going to arrest me. you need me. You need all of us.
Yeah, you're not going to arrest us. Yeah, you'll arrest us like 3 movies from now.
Yeah, like, and that's sort of, because that sort of sets up the Sokovia Accords. Like, so from that moment on, the US government, and I guess William Hurt's character, though we don't get to see it, but like, they started to be like, well, we need to fucking legislate these people. Like, we need to get them under control somehow.
Are getting out of hand. 3 helicarriers fell on DC.
Yeah, and so we don't get to see it, but a natural feeling amount of time passes between this movie and Civil War that I would believe, and especially because Civil War is technically the sequel to this movie, not the second Age of Ultron. Like, this is the sequel to Winter Soldier, even though it feels like an Avengers movie.
Yeah,
it makes sense that this is where the story has ended up. That the US government, after being told to go fuck itself by Black Widow and that heroes are in charge, get lost. Yeah. Would say, well, actually, we're going to have all the governments of the world unite against you people.
And this is also a great. This whole movie informs Cap's journey from being all about trusting the government and the higher powers to, no, we can't trust them.
Yeah.
We have to do what's right ourselves.
Yeah, we have to trust our own inner moral compass.
Yeah, which sets him at odds with Tony, because Tony's on the opposite journey.
Yeah, excellent writing. And but anyway, so again, I spun off into a bit of a tangent, but what I was trying to say is, had Nick Fury died, and we had this movie, where we had a bunch, like about a half dozen really intimate scenes with Black Widow, where we got to understand a little more about her psyche and her, her reasons for joining S.H.I.E.L.D. in the first place, and for sort of trying to go straight, as she puts it. That to lose Nick Fury, she even says it's weird seeing her when she sees him on the operating table and he's going to die. And he does die. Sorry, he does die.
Dies.
They're all there. They get all the characters together. So fair enough, he doesn't get shot to death because they wanted to have a scene where all three of the people he trusted in life get to watch him die, so that we can see the reactions together. Fine, that's fine with me. And her reaction hit me because she was looking at him like, "Don't do this to me." I'm like, I had no idea they were so close. But as soon as she said it, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that they're that close because, he's basically. Everything she's been doing for the last few years, she's been doing for him, because she's not really a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I'm finger quoting if you can't tell. She's not really a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in the way that Coulson is. She's clearly like more of a consultant, someone that they call in to do things, and someone that Nick trusts. And in the same way that I think Cap's respect means a lot to her, I think Nick's trust meant a lot to her.
Yeah.
And so to lose him,
it's something that shows her that she was on the right path. Yeah. His trust. Same with Steve's respect.
And that's the thing. So to lose him again, so I'm gonna show you two outcomes. One is what actually happened, and one is what should have happened. So what should have happened, to lose him would have really informed the rest of her journey, because she could have had that scene, like I said, where she has his eyeball and she's kind of lost a bit of her. She'd been getting softer and softer in the movie, but she's gone. That's gone. She's cold now. You know, and she releases everything and she doesn't give a fuck anymore. And she has that "go fuck yourself" to the Security Council or whatever. Yeah. And that would have all made sense because she's lost what she cared about. But what actually happened was Nick fucking lied to her. That's true. He lied to her. He lied to her. He lied to Cap. I think Maria knew what was going on, but he lied to everybody else. And so she was. That's probably the first time we've ever actually seen, except maybe for the Hulk scene, but she's more just frightened. Like, that was more of a primal thing. That's the first time we've ever seen her upset, emotional about something, which was Nick dying. So Nick meant something to her, and he faked his own death and didn't even have the courtesy to tell her. And that's then true. Later in the movie, it kind of doesn't make sense that she would be all, "No, fuck you, we're going to do what we want," when the person whose death hit you so hard was just doing whatever he wanted, was just doing what he thought was the right thing to do, and he fucking broke your heart, and it turned out he fucking lied about it, and then just turned up bold as brass like, "Of course I faked my own death, you know?
Of course I'm alive, I'm Nick Fury,
bitch." It kind of, like, it works when you're watching the movie, because it's cool, and Sam Jackson is cool, and Sam Jackson can do whatever the fuck he wants, because someone just gave him that license at some point in his life. But in terms of storytelling, I feel like this would have been the perfect moment for Nick Fury to die. And now, if it ever happens in the future, I'm A, not going to trust it, and B, not going to care.
They're Marvel films. You can never trust when someone dies.
But we need that. Like, that's...
Yeah.
And that'll come up more as, like...
And, like, I think Infinity War is going to be the movie where people die.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's going to be their strategy in the long run, you know, like, so if after they have Infinity War, if they sort of start a new Marvel Phase 1,
Yeah, the
and
next
build towards
decade.
another, yeah, and they do that same thing of just banking all of these characters and then cashing them in the final act, like,
Yeah.
no, oh my god, no, I can't. Like, that's it's going to get so samey and so blah.
Yeah.
And it's going to ruin movies like this, because this is an example of one of those movies where the stakes aren't the world. Like, the only people they're targeting right now are in America, because this is a very American movie.
Yeah, they're targeting about 20 million people or so.
Okay, I can't really say that those are low stakes. Those are really high stakes. But it's not the entire world going to end. You know, it's slightly less.
It's not
than
an alien invasion.
It's somewhere in between, let's
Yeah.
say. And like we were saying before, like that's something that the MCU is going to need, is bring it down a bit.
Yeah.
Like, have some personal stories.
Yeah.
And as sort of big as the threat is, in terms of the story, this is very personal. This is Cap and Bucky. This is Black Widow and Nick. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of personal stuff going on. And I've completely forgotten my point. So let's move on to how the fuck did Maria Hill infiltrate Hydra, who she didn't know existed until 40 minutes ago. In fact, she still didn't know they existed. She doesn't know it's Hydra. We haven't found out it's Hydra yet.
She's a good agent.
No, it's bullshit.
Uh,
She didn't know that Hydra was in the core of S.H.I.E.L.D. But somehow she managed to, like...
She was on the TAC team that went after...
She was on the strike team that went after and captured Cap, Falcon, and Widow, and
Yeah.
were taking them to kill them.
Yeah, so they knew about Hydra at this point. But yeah, Fury didn't, so she wouldn't have.
Yeah. So how on earth did she get onto that strike team?
I don't know. Maybe she just has the privileges because she's an agent in S.H.I.E.L.D. She's like, yeah, I'm just going to be on this strike team.
No, there's no way Rumlow would have let her on strike team. And also,
That's true.
it was clear that the guy sitting next to her in the truck didn't know that she was...
That was her, yeah.
Yeah, like, so it's...
I don't know. That's the problem when all of your strike team have no faces.
For sure, but more than... So fine, she could have found a uniform and just knocked out a
Took
guy.
out a guy, yeah.
But how did she know to do that? How did she know to get on this strike team?
Yeah.
How did she know who the traitors were?
Yeah, a bit of Deus Ex Machina there. Well, yeah, the only thing I could think of is Fury was like, find Cap and get him. And she did, because she's a highly competent S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
She's crazy competent.
Yeah.
It's kind of like understated how incredibly good at her job she is.
Yeah.
Especially because in the Avengers, she's mostly sort of like the lieutenant of the helicarrier.
Yeah, but she's still like good at her job in because at the start, like, you get to see her in action a bit at the start when she's chasing down Loki and them when they're escaping, and then when the helicarrier is attacked, she and Fury are basically the two agents holding the bridge mostly from everybody else.
Holding the... Huh?
When the helicarrier is attacked by Hawkeye and the other people,
right, yeah.
she
but...
and Fury are the people who do the most to protect the bridge.
Yeah, but that's a diversion.
And then she pulls a guy in front of her and saves her own life from the grenade blast.
Oh yeah, she dives over the barrier and uses the guy as a human shield. Well, she's a survivor.
Yeah. And in this movie, you see her doing her thing inside the Triskelion. She looks up, sees the security camera, kicks back against the desk, and just like casually shoots two people.
And keeps pouring information out for everybody else.
Yeah.
Another thing I wondered about this movie. So this movie has the reveal that the Winter Soldier is Bucky. So I guess there's an action scene where, like you said, they have this terrible plan of bringing Sitwell to the Triskelion and going in the front door. And then as soon as they've come up with that plan and Sitwell has let them know it's a bad plan, Sitwell gets torn out of the car by the Winter Soldier
thrown into a truck.
thrown into a truck. And the Winter Soldier proceeds to tear the car to pieces, force them into a crash.
Yeah, this action scene is amazing as well.
God. And then as soon as... So, like, they just barely get out of the car before it's completely totaled. And Falcon just starts rolling down the highway. I don't know how he survived. And Cap, like, jams the shield into the door, grabs Black Widow.
No, he grabs Black Widow and Falcon.
Oh, but then...
They all slide on the door for a while, and then I think they get separated.
Okay. But then basically, as soon as he finds his feet, like Winter Soldier destroys the car, jumps back to his own car, that car stops, and just as Captain America is finding his feet, one of the other guys has already handed Winter Soldier a grenade launcher, and as soon as Cap gets his shield up, boom, grenade right into the shield.
Cap's off the bridge,
and he's gone. And so it's the other two now have to fucking defend themselves without him. And it's,
this fight scene was great because it did a lot to inform the Black Widow Winter Soldier dynamic. Because early in the film, we get Black Widow's telling him how she was on a mission to protect this guy, and Winter Soldier
shot him through her, and she can't wear bikinis anymore. And so it's terrible now.
Yeah. So Winter Soldier shows up, and Black Widow immediately saves everybody's life. She jumps on Steve's back, pulls him down, and then a second later, a gunshot goes through where his head would have been, and then she pushes Falcon out of the way as well, and the gunshot goes through where his head was. And then the first half of this fight is a lot of her versus Winter Soldier, and she's like, she gets thrown off the bridge at one point, and she's running. Then she sees his shadow. Then she takes a shot, and she lands a hit on his goggles.
Yeah.
And then that's when he takes them off, and we get the first half of the reveal, where if you knew that actor's face, you would be like, wait a minute, that's Bucky. And then it just continues like that. Then I don't know if he recognizes her. I don't think so, because he has his mind wiped all the time. But he goes after her instead of everybody else, and he sets other people up to go after everybody else, and he goes after Black Widow. And then she outsmarts him, and they have this sort of cat and mouse game, and they have their own fight, but she can't stand up to a giant robotic metal arm.
But she buys enough time for Steve to get back in the fight.
And she takes a good few hits, and then she deals out a good few hits too with her crazy electro discs. But it's a nice, through the action sequence, we get informed that she sort of has a grudge and wants to best Winter Soldier.
I completely didn't cop that at all. I know she's super competent at doing what she does, but yeah, in fact, because I said when we were watching the movie, when she grabbed Steve, I thought she was putting Steve between her, kind of like Maria Hill, all the women just find me a big man to not to defend me, but to
act as a shield.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I didn't cop that at all. But yeah, you pointed out that she actually moves them out of the way of the bullets, and also the fact that she knows Winter Soldier well enough, his training well enough.
Yeah,
that
she knows if I was up there, I'd go here and here next.
Yeah, she dives out of the back seat just as he shoots into the back seat, and then pulls Steve just as he shoots. Yeah, exactly. You're right. And she sort of and keeps keeps trying to pull him towards her during the whole fight, and uses her trickery, makes that quick little voice recording on her phone to lead him over to her so she can get the drop on him.
Yeah,
and jumps on his back. Guy with a metal arm, she jumps on his back.
She jumps on his back, and she tries to get her to garrote him, but he gets his hand up just in time. Yeah. And so they're pretty evenly matched, even though Winter Soldier is the super soldier with a metal arm.
Everybody's got to breathe.
Yeah. And so he sort of bests her again, almost, and then Cap shows up, and then we get the true reveal where it's actually Bucky. They have their fight, Cap throws him, and then pulls off his mask.
Yeah, and so
that shakes Cap. That's a ghost of his past, literally showing up in front of him.
But before the reveal, though, I just wanted to. I love that. It feels like more than any other movies. In most of the Thor movies, Thor just sort of shows up and beats people to death with his hammer. And in the Iron Man movies, Iron Man just sort of outguns everybody, just pours fire. There's the kind of cool scene in the third one where he doesn't have a suit and he just makes a bunch of gadgets and sort of infiltrates the place. But I already pointed out that he's great at making gadgets, but he's not Spec Ops. These are all armed guards, and they're all supposed to be watching the places that he's infiltrating from. Yeah. So he got really lucky. But in this movie, Steve's a soldier, and you really get to see it because he's fighting a soldier. And there's the whole part where there's the silly parts where he's running at a guy with a minigun and the guy never thinks to shoot at his legs. Yeah. But then there's the part where he's fighting Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier's shooting high, shooting low, shooting left. He's shooting everywhere he can. And Steve is at all times trying to close distance, trying to take all the advantages away from his opponent. Yeah. And you can see in the way he moves, he's always trying to get closer, and Winter Soldier's trying to keep the distance so he can keep firing, trying to get an angle on him. And there's it's balletic, the way they just sort of, they're moving around each other and their orbits are getting closer and closer as they're about to clash. And then as soon as they clash, the first thing Winter Soldier does is take Steve's advantage away, which is take the shield. And Steve finds himself kicked away, and now Winter Soldier has both advantages, And
then he throws the shield.
And then he throws it straight away and it gets stuck in the car. But yeah, it's just a cool fight. And then when they're going toe to toe, suddenly it turns out that Bucky in the last 70 years went to like Arya Stark's knife fighting academy because he's not even like really trying to stab him. He's just like flipping it around and like trying to trick. He doesn't even know where it is. But it's super cool. Like anybody who can drop and catch a fight in the same hand and in a fight, in an actual hand-to-hand fight, that's always going to look pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then they have the reveal that Bucky's there. I feel like this movie suffers from the 5 movies between the first Avenger and this one, because even though I know they're friends and I remember a lot of the scenes that they had together in the first Avenger, and I even remember when we were doing our first Avenger podcast that we made a point of saying they feel like such good friends, you know? They have such a great chemistry, and they clearly have a bond that's like, it's palpable. You can feel it whenever they're in a scene together. For some reason it just I didn't feel it here, you know? Like when Cap looks distraught over seeing him again, it just didn't kick me in the balls the way it probably would have had I just seen the first Avenger, you know?
True, yeah.
And they kind of alleviate that a little bit later by having the flashback scene where he's walking him home from his mother's funeral, which again, life of pure tragedy, just non-stop getting kicked in the teeth, and the end of the line setup.
I'll be with you till the end of the line.
But yeah,
so
it
sets up the callbacks in this movie. So many.
But it's just a shame. Like I don't want to say that it's not there. Like it's definitely there. And had you seen the first Avenger right before this movie, I think it would be very evident, like, you know, on screen. You'd understand it. But for some reason, I didn't feel it. Maybe just because I've been watching so many Marvel movies the last few weeks. I'm kind of going a bit Marvel blind. Yeah. But then
we did have that. There was that little setup at the start when Cap goes to the museum.
Friends for life.
It goes through all of like Cap's different things, and then focuses specifically on Bucky, and it's like Sergeant Bucky Barnes, the only Howling Commando to lose his life in the war.
They were inseparable in battle and out. Yeah,
on the schoolyard, on the battlefield.
Yeah, no, it builds back up. Like I guess it's just that opening. I guess maybe I felt a lot like how Cap felt. I wasn't expecting Bucky, you know. So he was like, he's distraught, but he's also a bit confused. Like what's going on?
And we do also have the difference now, because it's Bucky, but it's not Bucky. Yeah, because he's not all there. He doesn't remember Cap at all, and then only at the very, very end do we get that slight hint that maybe he does.
See that? So, do you ever watch Supernatural?
No.
So, Supernatural is this show about these two brothers who fight evil, and all throughout it's sort of like they're very like Cap and Bucky kind of brothers to the end. They'll do anything for each other. They literally each season die for each other. Like they just trade off and then bring each other back somehow. Yeah. But so that show's like, I don't know, like 12 seasons deep now, but in the first 5 seasons is kind of a self-contained story in and of itself, and it's all building towards something that happened to Sam and Dean. Something that happened to Sam when he was a kid meant that he became like an optimal vessel for bad things, you know, to be possessed by demons and such. And so the devil, who is trying to escape from hell, like Lucifer, wants to possess Sam so that he can, like, you know, wreak havoc on Earth. And the angels want to, like, Michael, the archangel, who's, I think, the guy who put Lucifer in the cage in the first place, wants to possess Dean so that he can fight Lucifer and put him back in the cage, which will almost undoubtedly kill both of them. But by that time, like by season 5, after everything else that's been going on, you understand that this is way bigger than these two brothers, right? Yeah. And in the finale, being the Winchester brothers, and always like defiant to the end. So Sam has been possessed by Lucifer, through no fault of his own. Like it just happened. And Dean has refused point blank to let the angels handle this. He's going to handle this himself. And he shows up at the end of the movie, at the end of the like season 5 finale, in like the car that they've been driving in together for the last 5 years. He plays some like, I don't know, Led Zeppelin or some like cool music that they would both recognize. He drives down there and like gets out of the car and he's like, Sam, you're coming home with me. Like I'm not going to fight you. Sam, take back control of yourself, you know? Like, come out of there. And, like, Sam just Lucifer proceeds to just beat the shit out of him. Like, beats him down and down. And it's actually pretty fucking horrible because, like, for a show that's mostly kind of lighthearted, like it's got demons and stuff in that, but it's mostly kind of fun, and their brotherly things kind of fun. Like he beats the shit out of him, and like to the point where his face is all bloody and contorted and bruised, like there's huge lumps in it and stuff, and it's getting kind of dire. And you're in your head, you're kind of thinking like, you know, is an angel going to show up and help or something? But ultimately, Sam like wrestles back control, and I think like throws himself. There's like a vortex to hell opening up, and Sam basically takes control of his body long enough to throw himself into the hole, which will close it, trapping Lucifer back in hell, but Sam along with him. Sacrifices himself for his brother. Reminded me a lot of
the final scene.
The final scene of this movie. Where
you're my mission.
You're my mission. You're my friend. Or you're my brother? Does he say friend or brother?
I can't remember.
He says, you know, we're friends or whatever. And like takes off his helmet, drops the shield. I don't want to fight you. You know, don't do it.
I'll be with you till the end of the line.
With you to the end. And he's like beating him
with his metal arm as well.
Yeah, just like punching him. But then again, we've seen Cap dive out of planes and shit and out of skyscrapers, so
and lift an unbelievably large metal beam.
And yeah, no, it reminded me of that like that kind of the sacrifice of it was. There's something like. Again, I'm in one of those situations where I don't know what I was trying to get at, or like I did know, but I've talked around it too long. Yeah, it's just really compelling, you know. Like it reminded me a lot of that felt really, you know, if anybody listening to this watch Supernatural, you know what I mean. That like it was really heartrending stuff, you know.
Yeah,
that ultimately
realistic.
Like when he was like. The whole episode had been set up to kind of culminate in this point. Like at the start of it, it's not going to make any sense to anybody who hasn't seen Supernatural. But basically, there's a prophet from God who has been writing the stories of Supernatural, everything the brothers have been going through. He's been writing books, not knowing that this was real life, and publishing them. And he's written about the car and all of the memories contained in the car, and the meaning, like the meaning of the car as a symbol for the two brothers, because it's basically been their home this entire time. And so while he's being beaten to death by his own brother, there's like these flashbacks of things that have happened to them in the car, both in the show and as kids, because they were being driven around by their father, and they've been in this their whole life. And in the same way, this movie just really hit me that so much of what Cap is going to become rests on this moment, and him redeeming Bucky. And I know it becomes sort of like a cliche in later movies that he's just constantly like, Bucky, just come on. Hop on, would you? But like so much of everything that we know about Cap and everything that Cap is going to become, like where Cap is at the end of Civil War, none of that could have happened were it not for this moment right here, where he chooses to, first of all, like drop his helmet, then drop his incredibly expensive and rare shield, not on the floor, out of the fucking plane and into the water somewhere, you know. But yeah, he
decides to do what, like how you put it earlier. He couldn't trust anyone, but he puts his trust back in Bucky.
Yeah, exactly. He makes the choice. He makes the choice to place his trust in somebody, even though he knows he can't trust Bucky. Like literally, Bucky's going to beat him to death. He still chooses to trust, because if he can't trust Bucky, what point is there? He would rather die. Like that's not the world that he wants to live in, and that's what he's realized. This is the world that I live in, but it's not the world that I want to live in. And so
the world has to be a better place than this. I have the trust that it'll be a better place than this.
Exactly. And so that's it's the perfect culmination of his story. His through line in the movie is like it's summed up really well here.
Yeah.
It's also a lot like the end of Supernatural. Means nothing, but I just like talking about it because it used to be a good show for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really inspirational.
It is really inspirational.
Because like he both has like the inspirational speech, but also he is an inspiration.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So he has the inspirational speech, and that's to other characters. But then he has this inspirational moment, which is to us, the audience, and to Bucky, and that's it.
And he also, before he even has the final confrontation with Bucky, like he's inserted the last of the cards or whatever they're called.
Yeah, the targeting chips.
And he blades, and he says to Maria Hill, blow them now.
Yeah.
And so like he's been shot, he's been gut shot, and I don't think he thinks he's gonna die. He knows he could survive being gut shot.
He can't wear bikinis now either.
But I still think when he says that, there's a logic to him. You know, you could say that he's just being sort of melodramatic. Again, in a different movie, it would have just come across as melodrama, like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself to complete the mission. No. The villains in this movie have proven themselves time and time again to be competent and merciless.
Yeah.
And Were
And
it
this
not,
this is the first time in the entire film that the heroes have gained any ground.
yeah,
That
exactly.
they've won up the villains this time and this time only.
And even after, so like he tells Maria, like, do it, blow them right now, and he's proven right. Like more than just the fact that throughout the entire movie, it's clear that any chance you get, you need to take it immediately because these guys are on the ball. So there's that, and that informs his decision, and it makes his decision make sense in the moment, like in the thick of it. But also immediately afterwards, Alexander Pierce. Turns out he had a plan. He activates the 2 lapel burner thingies that he had on the council members and takes Black Widow hostage. I mean, not physically, but like takes her hostage, saying, "You gotta let me out of here. I'm gonna burn her sternum out or whatever."
Yeah.
Because they're super competent villains. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They have exit strategies. They're fucking thought about this, you know. And it's just really well executed. The way that, despite being a very long movie, it always feels like relentless, you know. It just will not slow down for a second, and you even get the sense that the characters would love to just take 5, you know,
take a minute, they're exhausted.
Can I just get a breather?
we get it. We had like they get a slight breather in the middle of the movie when they go to Falcon's place, and like they have a shower and they clean up after being exploded by a missile.
It's like I made breakfast if you eat that kind of thing.
Yeah, and even that's called back too later when Falcon picks up Cap.
I had a big
Cap's
breakfast.
like, I had a big breakfast.
Oh, that's so clever. But again, so I know I already made the point that I'd love if Nick Fury had died and Black Widow had produced his eye instead of him showing up at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But also, what would have been cool is if that lady had not been Black Widow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
If it had just been the World Security Council member who was just like, no, I'm not taking any of your shit.
More than that, maybe I'm going a bit too deep on this, but how cool would it have been if she was a Black Widow?
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Right? Like, so she was not, and she didn't even need to know Natasha Romanoff. I would imagine none of them really know each other. As soon as they get activated, they never see each other again their entire lives. But she went to the same school and is a former, like maybe retired now, and she's found a position in
found her own way out of that world.
Yeah, and so, but like you never lose skills like that, and so she just fucking takes everybody down, and then Natasha has to kind of give her a nod when she like Natasha
shows up.
Yeah, Natasha shows up to kind of like rescue her, and she's just standing there with a gun to Pierce, like, so what do we do?
It would have been great. Probably would have required too much explaining.
Yeah,
but it would have been perfect.
Like
even if they didn't explain it and she was just a badass.
Yeah, why not? Why couldn't she just take them all down? Yeah, like it might not have worked, but I just remember when I saw the movie for the first time, and even when I saw it this time, thinking, like, I had no reason to think it was Black Widow.
Yeah.
Nothing. There had been no, like you said, there's so many setups and callbacks in this movie. Nothing had intimated earlier in any scene that she was going to try and infiltrate this.
Yeah. The only thing that does that is that she's not there.
Yeah.
During the setup and during everything else, she's not there. Like the World Security Council arrive, and Hill, Cap, and Falcon are infiltrating at the same time, but Black Widow isn't there. So that's the only like hint that she would be somewhere else doing something else.
Yeah, she's noticeably absent.
Yeah.
Noticeably absent. I'm getting kind of loose tongue. But yeah, like I'm not saying it would work. I just remember
cool.
it was still a cool scene, but it was really, really cool for the 15 seconds where I thought this random lady had just like bested everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And also in my brain, immediately, even in those 15 seconds, I was going, I mean, it makes sense. She's on the World Security Council. She was probably a soldier. She's probably, and like a highly decorated soldier. Like she would have, in order to get to where she is, she would have to have some understanding of security. The only way you can get that is by being in an army of some kind. Oh, it's Black Widow. You know what I mean? Like, it activated my imagination. Like probably more than any other part of the movie. I was like, wow, that's incredible. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like still good, but it could have been magical. And then it didn't work for me when Senator Stern said it, and it really didn't work for me when Alexander Pierce said Hail Hydra. So he gets shot to death, he goes through the glass window, he watches the Insight thingies, the helicarriers are all dropping from the sky, and he says Hail Hydra. I kind of think something else, what if he had said, you fools, because in his mind,
Yeah,
he's the quintessential bad guy who thinks he's the good guy. Right?
Yeah, he doesn't come off as an evil Hydra agent. He comes off as, this is how we keep the world safe.
Yeah. And in the same way that Captain America has a sort of blinkered right and wrong moral center,
yeah,
so does this guy.
Yeah.
It's different.
He's the big picture.
Yeah.
If I have to sacrifice this many people to save everybody else, I will.
Especially
because
when this many
there's
people,
more people here.
Yeah, and especially when this many people are... I'm not sacrificing a random 20 million. These are threats. These are identified threats,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
In that very kind of American lexicon, like this jargon that America keeps spewing. But he's... Yeah, like... He doesn't... Like, I understand that he's, for some reason, in charge of Hydra.
Or at least this cell of Hydra.
This cell of Hydra. But I never took him for a fanatic. In
Yeah.
the same way that I never took Zola
exactly,
for a fanatic. He just seems like... This seems... Like, this philosophy works. I believe in it. You know? Like, I think it's a good idea that we should... That, you know, like Loki says...
People need to be controlled.
Yeah, like, freedom is, like... a poison gift, you know. It's people with freedom do terrible things. What you need is to be ruled. You need someone to tell you where your limits are, and that's the way he sees the world. Is that, and you can understand it. Like, I actually didn't remember that part, that his daughter was in that hostage situation, but I can totally understand how he, like, at that time, as a young man, as a young father, he would have felt so completely out of control that he would have a pressing, urgent desire to find a way to exert control on that kind of scale. And so there's just something so reasonable about him, and especially because they got someone like Robert Redford, Hollywood royalty, to play. Again, is that, you know, that Hugo Weaving problem of, like, you get these incredible actors, like these, and not just incredible actors, but proven actors. Like Chris Evans was kind
like
of a nobody.
Actors.
Yeah, venerable, exactly. Like all of the Chris's, the Chris Evans, the Chris Pratts, the Chris Hemsworths, like they're fine actors, but they were untested before the MCU came along. All of your villains, like all of these, they're like Oscar winners.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, like you've got all these people who are given like varying degrees of
well written roles.
Yeah. But all of them elevate them. Like every actor that they put in these roles, and it feels like they're going about it the wrong way. It's like they're accepting the fact that we're bad at writing villains, so we're going to compensate by getting the best possible actors we can. When the solution seems obvious, right? Just get better writers, or get different writers. Get writers who understand not just how to write heroes, but how to write villains.
Yeah, and as villains go, Pierce isn't like a terrible Marvel villain. He's not like the villain from Ant-Man. Yellow Jacket.
Darren Cross.
Yeah. He's a good. He's got motivations, like you said. I could see him seeing himself as the good guy.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm doing what's right for the world,
and he always comes across very reasonable, and he always, like, except for the fact that I know he's not on the level. You know, I could see myself, you know, being not of the same mental fortitude as Captain America. I could see myself in the same situation with him immediately after Fury's dead, being convinced by
being swayed,
being like, that makes a lot of sense, and
your
very
reasonable tone and your compelling arguments have swayed me.
You're quite the orator, Mr. Redford. It feels like a disservice to the character that, like, he was written well enough. I would say he's adequately written, maybe even well written, not like
not
an exemplar, but like good enough.
Yeah,
but that does a disservice to him, having his final words be Hell Hydra, because everything, I don't know how much of it was script and how much of it was Robert Redford, but everything that Robert Redford brought to the character was about reason. Like, this guy measured and like he means what he's doing. So he's thought about it, he's calculated, he is fully aware of the consequences and repercussions. He's not like this, you know, blind maniac. He completely understands, I'm going to sacrifice 20 million people. I've come to terms with that. I'm actually...
He even, like, earlier on in the film, you get to see personally he's willing to, not just like in a cold, detached kind of way. Personally, he's willing to kill people to achieve this greater good that he sees. When he shoots his housekeeper because she sees Winter Soldier. Yeah,
and it's like, he thinks about it for a second, but he makes his decision very quickly.
Yeah, he's like I wish
Like, I didn't want to kill you, but I have to kill you.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, he doesn't want to kill 20 million people, but he has to kill them, you know? And it just feels to me like he deserved to go out with a line that would unsettle them, you know? Like, you should have listened to me. Or, you know, just something.
Something that's not just Hail Hydra.
Yeah, it's...
Same, like you said, same with the Senator. Him saying Hail Hydra just felt... if anything felt forced, it was those two Hail Hydras in the movie.
And that's what made it seem to me like maybe the whole Hydra thing was an afterthought. Like, that's something...
Maybe they're like reshoots and put in or something.
Yeah, like Superman's mustache. But I just... I feel like that, you know, he was sort of... Let's say there's a kind of very bad, okay, good, very good. He was that good in terms of villain. And that line could have put him like right at the bottom, but still in very good. Like right at the bottom of very good. Yeah. You know, whatever that percentage is. Yeah. Just like that's the difference between like a C and a B or something, or a B and an A. Yeah. But yeah, still fine. And that's so then like they win. Yeah. But instead of just having they win and Captain America goes on to his next adventure, like we were saying at the start, earlier, they have the side character montage. Yeah. Which is incredible and I think should be a staple of all the movies.
It was really good.
I would love to see what Michael Pena is doing after every Ant-Man movie.
Yeah, we see like Falcon is with Cap in the hospital playing that soundtrack that he talked to Cap about at the very start of the movie.
He's making him listen to it now, and then Cap, as soon as Cap wakes up and sees that he's on his left, he's like,
on your left. More callbacks. Fury is literally burning everything to the ground. Literally burning it all down.
That's his style.
And then Black Widow is doing her deposition in front of whoever it is.
Whoever are these people who take these depositions. Like, she's basically in the same situation that Iron Man was in Iron Man 2, or that Tony was in Iron Man 2, except the person who was prosecuting Tony in Iron Man 2 turned out to be in Hydra, guys. Like, whoever was in charge of your Senate subcommittee on superheroes was a fucking Hydra agent, you morons. So... I don't know what's going on in the US government, but as well as like they put these actors in there. Like I mistook the army general guy for the vice president from Iron Man 3, but still I recognized the actor, and that was the important part. And there was another actor in there who I also recognized, and it feels like they're putting these people in there to make me think there's something going on, like recognizable faces. Because that guy wasn't really important, but there was another guy. Like, nobody in this room was important, but there was another guy who's an actor whose face that I recognized. He's definitely been in other stuff. Okay. But he never said anything. He never made a contribution to the scene. He's just a recognizable face that I saw there. And I don't know why that actor would agree to do that, because that precludes him from ever being a hero or ever being, like, an important character in the MCU. Like, maybe there was more to that scene, or there was a different scene that he was in and he got to speak and it just got cut down. But, it's like, I understand where Black Widow's coming from, where she like rocks up and fuck you mortals, but I think you could have done more with that specific scene. Yeah. Is like, because that's basically establishing the Sokovia Accords right there. Is that she's sort of drawn a line in the sand and forced the American government's hand, because they don't have the capacity to rein in these people anymore, so they need to go to the UN and be like, we need to make some kind of international armistice against enhanced peoples because it's getting out of control. And so, I don't know, it's maybe, actually, now that I think about it, since there were those actors that I recognized, they didn't get to say anything, there probably was a longer scene there that had to be cut, because the movie was already 2 hours long. Yeah. But yeah, it was still a pretty cool scene. And then Agent 23 joins the CIA, which I guess
13.
I'm thinking of Wolverine. Yeah, Agent 13 joins the CIA, which is cool, except, I mean, we'll talk about this when we get to Civil War, but she sort of ceases being a character now, or like a character with agency after this, because in Civil War she serves as inspiration and support to Cap. Yeah. Like, she inspires him to stick to his guns, and then she helps him find Bucky, and then she helps him get Bucky out of the country, and then she leaves the movie. Yeah. Whereas in this movie, she's part of everything. She's surveilling him from the start.
Yeah, she does things besides just help, like inspire.
Yeah, but also, like, she has a job. Yeah. And the point, like, what I liked about this character montage is that it establishes that these human people, these ground level, peasants.
Where was Ahmed in this?
Yeah, I know, right?
Post, like, in this montage.
Remember Community? Still waiting for that movie. What I liked about this post-credit montage, no, it was pre-credit montage, was that it established that all these ground level human peasants
have to get on with their lives.
Well, also have a trajectory, also have goals and
meaning
in their
they
lives.
don't just exist as background characters for our heroes.
Yeah, so
they are real and have things to do.
Yeah, and when S.H.I.E.L.D. crumbles, you know, the shot of her isn't her fucking eating ice cream, watching Bridget Jones at home. You know, she goes and gets another job at another agency that hopefully
isn't filled with Hydra agents.
And then Maria Hill, the consummate fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, gets a job at Stark Industries. Because of course she does. Yeah. And I can't like compliment that montage enough. Like, that was a great idea, something I didn't need to put in there whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure what the genesis of that idea was. Like, who was it on the writing staff who said, you know what we should do? We should have a montage to who is it? Who's the, Marvin Gaye? Like a montage to a Marvin Gaye song at the end. That's really the Marvin Gaye song only has any like special significance to Cap and Falcon. We're gonna play it over everybody and just show where everybody else is in life. Yeah, Cap, Falcon, and us. I just really like it. It's something that they don't do enough of.
Yeah,
and I guess it's supposed to be.
It's it's a small thing that really fills those background characters.
Yeah,
it gives them more agency, more depth,
and more meaning in the later movies. Since like the human characters are going to be the cannon fodder, or like they're going to be the easiest targets.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if their deaths meant something, or if they were at least permanent. Coulson.
But as far as the movies go, Coulson's dead.
But I guess what I was going to say is, I guess that's the province of the TV shows, is to show like the human level stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is anything to go on, there's nothing human about those people. Like, everybody turns out to be an inhuman, or get all of the knowledge in the world downloaded into their brain but they lose their mind, or turns out to be Hydra. You know, nobody's...
Or gets a robotic arm that can project a shield.
Who does that?
Coulson.
What?
He gets his arm cut off, and now he's got a robotic arm, and it can project a shield that's like Cap's shield, but it's got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the like shield falcon or bird on the front of it.
Even though S.H.I.E.L.D. is a defunct, corrupt organization.
they still go on with their we're the true S.H.I.E.L.D.
Also, that's what Cap has now. Is the vibranium fan shield.
Oh, I haven't seen the trailer.
Oh, well, there's a picture as well.
Okay, I haven't seen that either.
Okay, sorry. But he has one. Now you know that.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing at the end... So, then it closes with the trio at Nick's grave.
Yeah.
And Nick showing up to be like...
I'm going to Europe.
Still not dead. And yeah, I'm going to Europe. And then we find out in the post-credits that he's probably going to deal with this Baron von Strucker.
Yeah, he says that we didn't get them all. That there's other...
cells.
Yeah, other cells out there. And so we're introduced to Baron von Strucker. And his
the miracles.
Weird monocle.
Yeah, that may or may not be Google Glass.
Yeah. And he doesn't really play that much of a role, except for the fact that his son is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And I know I've been harping on about death, Coulson dying, and how it would have made a lot more sense for Nick to die, but I could have forgiven him. So like, I could have forgiven maybe if he had shown up, not said hello, but shown up at his funeral. So they've been all at his grave and all been sad, like, goodbye Nick.
Yeah.
Long rest in peace. And then he had just been there, been like elsewhere, watching them
like in the background.
Yeah, just been like.
That seems like a Nick Fury thing to do.
Yeah, that's something that maybe I could have forgiven. Like, that's a sort of classy way to fake your own death. But I can't forgive the way that he actually did it, which was just a shitty, emotionally manipulative, terrible thing to do. But I think, do you have anything else? Any other points about the movie?
No. Well, the last thing was that when we get to see the Baron, we get introduced to the term
miracles.
The miracles. The term enhanced eventually comes up, where we get the Maximoff twins.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that in the movies,
You thought the X-Men were coming?
No, I didn't think. Like, I knew the X-Men weren't coming, but I was like, "This is amazing." So I'd known them from not from the comics, but from the TV shows, So I knew who they were, and I was like, this is amazing. They're mutants, but they're not mutants. They're miracles. And that just like that after credit scene just blew me away when I first saw it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I knew, like, well, I didn't know when I saw the after credit scene. I don't think, does he say their names?
I don't think he says their names. No, he just says the twins.
Okay, because I remember.
But I knew who they were.
Yeah, I didn't. I remember looking it up and finding out they were Magneto's kids.
Yeah.
And that was actually, I think that was probably the first time that I really, went down the kind of wiki rabbit hole of understanding how everything is split up
and tied together.
And how there was like this crazy, tiny grey area where they could take certain characters from the X-Men canon, but only because those characters had been Avengers members at one point or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird that they, like, I guess maybe it was kind of a fuck you to Fox. Like, it's weird that they put those characters in there and then immediately
Quicksilver especially. Yeah,
like, and then immediately kill Quicksilver.
Yeah. Well, I can understand maybe why killing Quicksilver over Scarlet Witch, because in the X-Men franchise, Quicksilver is a prominent character that everybody fucking loved because of that one scene.
Yeah.
The Whiplash scene.
Whiplash.
Yeah. And then we get, when really it's both of those actors from that movie.
Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass, yeah. They're both playing Quicksilver.
Yeah. I wonder if they have like WhatsApp fights about that. Meet up and like race.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, they didn't really add anything to Age of Ultron. Like, I guess we'll talk about it when we get to Age of Ultron, which is coming up soon. But it was, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it was a really exciting setup scene to something that never happened. Like, Bram Strucker's killed immediately.
Yeah.
And then the twins become like Ultron's lackeys, sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
And then they join the Avengers in the end.
Yeah. It's all like, really it's all like just a setup for Wanda.
Yeah. Who then turns out to be sort of, like, I mean, we'll talk about it more when we get to the movies that she's actually in, but maybe it's just because her accent is so bad and I wish she would just use an American accent.
But she's not from America.
I don't care. But yeah, anyway, and then the only other, like, then we get the actual post-credit scene for this movie, which is Bucky going to the Cap Museum to learn about Cap.
Mirroring Cap
at the start. And maybe they have to keep putting him in the machine to keep his memories down.
I think so, yeah.
So, like, now that he's been out of the machine for a while and the
memory's been jogged.
His memory's been jogged, but he's been exposed to a lot of stuff that he would remember, he's starting to get curious about what, but then it's weird when they'd see each other in Civil War. I guess again we'll talk about it in Civil War, but when they see each other and he's like, yeah, I saw you in a museum or something, I saw your name or your face or whatever in a museum. Yeah, so but also you had a fight to the death with him right before you went to that museum. Young man. Anyway, but yeah, Jesus.
So what's next?
Next is Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So that's actually perfect, because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will be next. We can get all the emotional payoff that won't be there, because nothing really carries. It's a completely different story. Yeah. That like splits. They just get together at the end of the first movie, then it splits them apart. But then we'll talk about that. Yeah. This has been episode The Winter Soldier of the Saturated Industry Podcast.
I've been Steve.
I've been Danny. And we will see you
eventually
in the Guardians 1.